How's it going, guys? My name's Tim Bledsoe. My last name starts with B, so I guess I'm going to be explaining metabolism as if I was to explain it to a high school student. I'm going to try and keep it as basic as possible and general as possible. To me, when I explain metabolism to anybody, I try to explain it as like a teeter. We're building up on one side or we're breaking it down. So the medical term for those is building up would be anabolism, or we're doing catabolism. Basically what metabolism I think is. And so first I'm going to talk about catabolism, which is breaking down all the foods in your body, or all the foods that you're basically eating, and you're getting the nutrients from it, or you're getting energy. As far as energy for the body, we're going to be talking about ATP. It's going to be just a super complex organic molecule that basically has high energy phosphate bonds. And when you break those, it gives energy to all your cells to be able to do the jobs that they do. So when we're breaking down food, we want ATP to keep breaking down food, or to keep breathing, doing all the stuff our body does. And when we're breaking stuff down, you're either breaking down proteins, carbs, or fats. All of these go through one process, they just do it different ways. And I'm trying to keep it as basic as possible because it can get pretty confusing. And so this process starts at pyruvate. And so I'm going to talk about carbs. And so first, carbs, when you digest them and you break it down all the way down to glucose, it goes to the liver and it turns into pyruvate. Once it's pyruvate, it then turns into acetyl-CoA, which is going to be just an enzyme, or a big compound. And then once it's in acetyl-CoA, it goes through this big cycle, Krebs cycle or TCA cycle. And then the whole point of that cycle is when it goes through those phases, it breaks off and you get high energy carriers, formerly known as NADH. These high energy carriers then go through another phase, which is called the electron transport chain. That happens inside the inner membrane of the mitochondria. When it goes out there, then pops out ATP. That's what we want. And so for carbs, like I said, you break it down to glucose and then it goes to pyruvate and acetyl-CoA and goes through it. If you were to have protein, your body would break the protein down, and then you would have amino acids. There's 20 different amino acids you can have, so there's two different ways you can enter that cycle. You can either go on the pyruvate side or the acetyl-CoA side. Either way, it doesn't matter, because when you go through it, you're going to produce ATP. As far as fats, it's going to be triglycerides, and they're composed of glycerol and 3 fatty acids. You break those apart, the glycerol is going to go into the pyruvate side, and then the fatty acids will go into the acetyl-CoA side. Still go through the same process, still produce ATP. Now, when I talk about these and them going to produce ATP, what we don't want in our body is to use protein. If we use protein, that means you're breaking down muscles or organs, whatever. Breaking down protein for ATP is probably the last straw. Your body doesn't have any carbs, doesn't have any fats. Your body wants glucose. So if you run out of glucose, it goes to fats. After you run out of fats, then you go to protein. So basically, you don't want that. But that in a nutshell is going to be catabolism, breaking down to get essentially what you need. Then we're going to talk about anabolism, which is building up, storing. So as far as carbs, you break it all the way down, the carbs into glucose. You have so much glucose left, you're not going to use it for energy. You already have too much. So then you're going to build up glycogen. That glycogen will then be stored for energy you can use later in your liver or muscles. For your fats, instead of breaking the glycerol down and fatty acids down, you're going to keep them together and store them as fat, adipose tissue. As far as the protein side, this was what you want to use protein for. You wanted to store it. You want to use those amino acids to build muscle mass. So that's going to be for the building up side. And why I explain it as a teeter is because either you're building up all the food you eat and storing fat or storing energy, or you're going to be breaking it down and you're going to be using it. So it just kind of fluctuates. And for me, that in a nutshell is how I would explain metabolism. Thanks for listening, guys.